In the annals of wrestling and strength sports history, a few names carry that weight, literally and figuratively. Josephine Blatt, known to the world as Minerva, she was a trailblazer, a woman who defied the norms on her time to become one of the most celebrated athletes in the late 19th and early 20th century. But who was Minerva? And why does her story, though often overlooked, deserve a prominent place in the history of women's sports? Today, we're going to deep dive into the incredible life of Josephine Blatt, exploring her rise to fame, her incredible feats of strength, and most importantly, the legacy she left behind. Josephine Blatt was born in 1869 during a time when the idea of women participating in physical sports was almost unheard of. The information about her early life is very scarce, but as often the case of many women during that time period, especially those who would go on to challenge societal norms. But however, what we do know is from an early age, Josephine was drawn to the world of physical strength, an interest that was far typical from a young woman that was her age. The late 19th century was an era of change, marked by the Industrial Revolution and shifting social dynamics. But amidst these changes, the notion of women engaging in very physical activity was still pretty much a rarity. Most women that were confined to gender roles, but Josephine Blatt found herself captivated by the emerging culture of strongmen, men who performed incredible feats of strength for the entertainment of crowds at carnivals and vaudeville shows. It wasn't before long that Josephine saw an opportunity to carve out a space for herself in this world. So, she began her journey in the realm of strength, sports, and women's professional wrestling. To succeed in the world of strength sports, Josephine knew she needed more than just the physical prowess. She needed a persona, an identity that would captivate audiences and set her apart. Enter Minerva, the name she chose to represent her public image. The name Minerva is derived from the Roman goddess of wisdom and strength warfare. It was a powerful choice. It embodied the qualities Josephine aimed to project: strength, intelligence, and a tactical mind. Minerva quickly made a name for herself in the world of traveling shows, where feats of strength was just a major attraction. But during this period, these shows were at the height of their popularity. Audiences flocked to see the performers who could do the seemingly impossible. Minerva was no exception. She joined the ranks of the strong men and wrestlers, participating in exhibitions where she demonstrated her incredible physical abilities. But Minerva wasn't just a strong woman, she was also a wrestler, a combination that made her a unique and compelling figure in the world of sports entertainment. Now, Minerva's rise to fame was fueled by her extraordinary feats of strength, many which became very legendary in the sport. One of her most famous achievements was a backlift, where she reportedly lifted an astounding 3,564 pounds on her back. That's crazy. This feat, which took in 1895, was recognized by the Guinness Book of World Records, solidifying her reputation as the strongest woman at that time. Now, some have debated the legitimacy of this lift. As with many strength records from that era, the fact that remains that it brought Minerva a level of fame few women in sports had ever achieved. But Minerva wasn't just lifting weights, she was also taking on challengers in the wrestling ring. Wrestling, particularly during the carnival era, was a blend of sports and spectacle. Matches were often part of a larger show, designed to entertain as much as to test the skill. Minerva's wrestling career saw her face off against both male and female opponents, and an impressive feat given the period's gender dynamics. The mixed gender wrestling matches were rare and often viewed as a novelty rather than legitimate competition, as was explained last episode. But Minerva, these matches were an opportunity to prove that she wasn't just a sideshow act. She was a legitimate competitor. Her wrestling style, like her feats of strength, was grounded in power and technique. She was known for using her submission holds, grappling techniques that showcased her physical prowess. In the male-dominated world of wrestling, Minerva's ability to hold her own against male opponents was a testament to her skill and determination. However, these matches were not without their challenges. As a woman, Minerva faced significant obstacles, from lower pay to the grueling conditions of the carnival circuit. Despite her success, Minerva's career was with not its share of its challenges and its controversies. The physical demands of her performances combined with the relentless travel schedule of the carnival life took a toll on her health. Unlike today's professional athletes who have access to modern training day facilities, medical care, Minerva and her contemporaries had to endure such harsh conditions with such little support. The grueling nature of the carnival circuit, with its constant moving from one town to the next, often left performers exhausted and injured. Additionally, Minerva had to navigate a landscape filled with skepticism and prejudice. Her strength records, particularly her famous backlift, were sometimes met with disbelief. Critics questioned whether a woman could truly lift such a massive amount of weight, and some even suggested that her accomplishments were either exaggerated or outright fabricated. These doubts were part of a broader societal reluctance to acknowledge that the capabilities of women in physical sports, a reluctance that persisted well into the 20th century. But Minerva's resilience in the face of these challenges is what truly sets her apart from other women. She continued to perform, wrestle, and demonstrate her strength despite all of these controversies. Her determination to prove her worth in a male-dominated field laid the groundwork for future generations of female athletes who would continue to push the boundaries of what women could achieve in sports. Now, some of you might be asking, what's Minerva's legacy? In many ways, Miss Blatt was a woman that was ahead of her time. She broke barriers, she defied expectations, and carved out a space for herself in a world that was not ready to accept women as legitimate athletes. Her career helped challenge and slowly change the narrative surrounding women in strength sports and professional wrestling. Minerva's influence extended beyond her own performances. She inspired other women to pursue careers in other physical sports, helping to slowly erode that rigid gender norms that had long confined women to certain roles. In a time where the idea of strong athletic women was still shocking to many, Minerva showed that women could not only compete, but excel in arenas that was traditionally dominated by men. Her story also highlights the importance of the visibility in women's sports. By performing in front of large crowds, whether it's in a carnival tent or a wrestling ring, Minerva brought attention to the capabilities of female athletes. She helped plant the seeds of change, and even if the full impact of her efforts wouldn't be felt until very much later in her career. As many performers of her era, details about Minerva's life are difficult to come by. But after her peak late 19th century, she gradually faded from the public eye. The carnival scene itself began to decline, and World War I, as forms of new entertainment, like radio and television, they all began to take over. For Minerva, like many of her contemporaries, that shift marked the end of an era. Josephine Blatt, the woman who has been once celebrated as the strongest woman in the world, passed away on September 7th, 1923, in her home in Paterson, New Jersey. Although her name might not be as widely recognized today as it should be, her contributions to the history of women's sports are undeniable. Minerva's legacy is one of the strength, resilience, and determination, a legacy that continues to inspire other women in wrestling. In closing, Josephine Blatt was known to the world as Minerva. It stands out as a significant figure in the early history of professional wrestling, and also strength sports. Her feats of strength and skill in the wrestling ring challenged the gender norms of her time and helped to carve out a space for women in the physical competition. Minerva's story is a reminder of the resilience and the determination required to succeed in a world that is often sought to marginalize or exploit women in sports. But despite the odds, she left an undeniable mark on the history of women's wrestling and in strength sports, paving the way for the future generations of female athletes. Her story is one of triumph and struggle, and it deserves to be remembered and celebrated for the groundbreaking impact it had on the world of sports. So next time you think about the history of women in wrestling or the long journey towards gender equality in sports, remember, Josephine Blatt, or Minerva, was a true pioneer whose strength and legacy continues to resonate to this day. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. See you next week.